What's up? Welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. Look, you click the video, you know it's gonna be a dark list, right? You know what you're in for. Let's hit those shades, I don't know. Let's put on our sad hoodies. Let's cry together, I guess. That's what we're here for. I'm your host, Taylor McWaters. Here are the top 10 dark last words heard by first responders. Number 10, Princess Diana's last words. Okay, since Harry and Meghan were trending recently, I figured we'd open with this one. First responder who actually rescued Princess Diana that fateful day during that fateful crash. The same first responder opened up last year to speak about said incident and even Diana's final words before her untimely death later on August 31st, 1997. Now that day, Diana and her boyfriend Dodi Fayed were being followed by a group of paparazzi in Paris. Just an insane reason to kick off all of this nonsense. But during this chaos, the driver of her car lost control in the tunnel. There's still a lot of, what happened there going on with the driver. I'll save that for later. Sergeant Xavier Gorbalan was on duty that day and he did not know that Princess Diana was the one involved in that accident. Now he said after Fayed was removed, I was left with the passenger. Now she spoke in English and she asked, "My God, what happened?" She didn't say anything else until she later passed at the hospital. Number 9, Tupac's last words. Chris Carroll, who has since retired from the Las Vegas Metro Police Department back in 2010, at the time he was a bike patrol officer working a night shift on the evening of September 7th, 1996. He was working outside of the MGM Grand Hotel. Now I can't say certain things or details on YouTube because, rules and violations and yada yada yada. But after Tupac was attacked, sure, Chris Carroll was the first responder on the scene. In his words, here's what happened, according to an article on Billboard. Quote, "So I'm looking at Tupac, and he's trying to yell back at Suge." Suge Knight was also involved, of course. "And I'm asking him, who attacked you? What happened? Who did it? Anything, right? And he was just kind of ignoring me. He was making eye contact with me here and there, but overall, he's trying to yell at Suge. And I kept asking him over and over, who did this? Who attacked you? And he basically kept ignoring me. And then I saw in his face and in his movements, all of a sudden, in the snap of a finger, he changed. And he went from struggling to speak, being non-cooperative, to an I'm at peace type of behavior. So just like that, he went from fighting to I can't do it. And then when he made that transition, then he looked at me. And he's looking at me right in my eyes. And that's when I looked at him and I said, one more time, who did this? Who attacked you? And he looked at me, he took a breath to get the words out, and then he opened his mouth, and I thought I was actually going to get some cooperation. And then the words came out, F you. I can't say it, obviously, but yeah, he said F you. He didn't say anything. And at that point, an ambulance showed up and he went into unconsciousness, end quote. How amazing is that? I mean, obviously it's not amazing that Tupac died, but the fact that he went out like that and didn't say anything. Number 8, Dark Revenge. This one was posted by a username, My Dog Operates Better Than You. Great name, really great name. Interesting nurse story, here we go. I did a rotation in a burn unit. There are tons of stories that go around, but I'll share my favorite. A man attacked one of his night workers one night, but as soon as this flame was lit, the victim, she immediately bear hugged him, causing them both to suffer pretty severe injuries, pretty severe burns, and unfortunately, hers included an inhalation burn, so her fate was unfortunately sealed. Later on, they were both being treated in the same ICU on opposite ends, but sadly, weeks later, she ended up coding and passed away. And for about 30 minutes, as things started to quiet down, that guy, that not so great guy that did all this, he starts randomly screaming from his room, "Get her out, get her out." Okay, this one's got layers because it's not her last words per se, but many people have heard this story and have agreed that she was saying some nasty stuff to him before moving on, right? Or else who's he talking about? Either way, I'm sure that's gonna be haunting him at night regardless. Thank you for sharing. My Dog Operates Better Than You. And also, again, great name. Number 7, The Man in Black. Oh, this is scary. This story gave me the creeps when I read it online. Here we go. A nice old lady who told my CNA that she wanted to wear all white. Now, when I asked why, she said that the man in black is here. Now, she looked in the corner of the room. The CNA also looked, but there was no one there. That's when I came into the room. We asked her to describe what she was seeing, and she said, "He's in all black and he's got a top hat on." That's terrifying. "The Hat Man," she said, and then she whispered, "and his eyes are red," while her eyes moved across the room directly to behind that CNA, almost as if she was watching him move closer to us while describing him, which is terrifying. Now, sadly, she died later that night, but it was unexpected. That room creeped me out for a long time after that. It almost reminds me of that story that Aaron Rodgers was telling recently about this weird hat man, like this all black hat man in the shadows that he's seeing after he did some ayahuasca trip. What's everyone seeing? Who is this hat man? I'm terrified. Number 6, Hey. This one's from a nurse with username Hella Clogged. Great name. I love these names. When I was a nursing student up on an ICU floor, I was hanging antibiotics in my patient's room when I heard an audible, "Hey." Now, I turn around, as anyone would, and there is no one else in the room, okay? Mind you, my patient was sedated, so there's no possible way that it was them. Also, it was a woman's voice as well, so I thought that it was my preceptor. Now, I went back out to the nurse's station and I asked my coworker if that was her in the room trying to catch my attention, and she told me no, and I've never seen someone's eyes get so large. Apparently, the room that I was in had the most paranormal sightings and activity out of all the rooms in the unit. Awesome. That's lovely to hear. Imagine that. Cool. How do I sign out? Sightings as in shadows in the corner of the room, voices being heard, and curtains being flung violently across railings. Horrible stuff. No one ever told me about this room prior to my preceptorship, so it added to everyone's beliefs that it was actually haunted. That comes from Hella Clogged. Again, great name. Even greater story. That's terrifying. Thank you for sharing. The fact that they followed an invisible force with their eyes, that detail there, gave me the most creeps. Thanks for sharing. That's really good. Number 5, a grim plea. This was from a user named Kalasari, and it's about a DNR patient who was on comfort care. They were on a high dose of at the time and they were hallucinating. This is normal. But she would alternate between grasping for things not there and trying to climb out of bed. Pretty alarming. She was too unsteady to walk, so my job was to sit in the room and make sure that she was safe. She tried to get up and I went to ask her what she needed, and she grabbed my arm and pulled me down towards her face and said, very angrily mind you, "Kill me." That one messed with me for a while. Yeah, not all these stories have a silver lining. Some of them are just dark and horrible. Welcome to Most Amazing. There you go. This is what you wanted, right? You click the title, there you are. That depressing feeling in your chest, you got it. Click that thumbs up. Let's keep this grim train rolling. Number 4, Paramedic Promise. Okay, that last one was dark, but I promise this one will get your hopes back up for humanity. Uploaded by user Henry RN. Back when I was a paramedic in Oakland, I was taking care of an elderly gentleman in the back of my ambulance. He was looking up into the upper corner of the ambulance and he said, "It's okay, Lulu, I'll be with you soon." Kind of comforting. His daughter was with him and told me later that Lulu was his wife who had died 20 years prior. Now, a few minutes later, he sadly went into cardiac arrest and passed away. Okay, great. That's gives me a little bit of hope for the afterlife, afterworld. Also, I'm terrified at the same time. Isn't that lovely? Thank you for sharing, Henry RN. Henry, right now. That is your real name. Number 3, First Code. This one comes from Falling Star 24. That's a nice name, it's pretty normal. My first code as a nurse was of a middle-aged mother who we think ended up having a brain bleed. She was ripping her gown off at the time and ripping sheets off the bed, and eventually she yanked off her heart monitor. I was trying to start a blood transfusion at the time, but I needed to get her vitals beforehand, which of course was impossible because she wouldn't stay long enough for any of it to read. I'd given her a sedative and I was praying that it would kick in soon, but she kept grabbing my arm saying, "Come here, look at me, help me," with fear in her eyes that I will obviously never forget. I'm pretty sure I snapped back, "I'm trying," which of course I wish was something comforting now instead. Because then she leaned back, her eyes got droopy, she closed her mouth and then snapped her eyes wide open, but totally glossed over. And that was it. Again, that is from Falling Star 24. I can't imagine having that unfold in front of you in real life in real time. I wouldn't sleep again. All these stories, like kudos. If you do this job, I need these jobs, can't do it. That's crazy. I'm like saying lists online, I'm talking about these people, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing nothing. This is nothing. Number 2, I knew it. This comes from username Penguin. Great name, I wanted that one, but you beat me to it. They say, I'm an ICU nurse. A patient's son rang the hospital at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night saying that he was sure his dad was dying. His dad had had a severe stroke and was doing okay. Recovery would be difficult, but he wasn't expected to die and was pretty stable at the time. I was looking after him and it was a lot of work because he would try and get up, but then he couldn't walk, so he'd fallen a lot. The son really wanted to come in, even though it was way past visiting hours. But you know, I'll bend the rules in a good cause. I figured, what the heck, it's a Saturday night, come on in and sit with your dad, of course. I'm like, you're a great person for that also, side note. Sadly, the patient died about 2 minutes before the son walked in the door. It was like a switch was just turned off and he just died like that. The last thing he said to me was, "Am I bothering anyone?" And I told him at that point, of course not, even though he had some very frustrating behavior because of the stroke. Now the son, of course, at that point just started crying and was screaming, but he started saying, "I knew it, I knew it, I knew it," over and over again. How the heck he knew? Well, we were all a little bit freaked out. Now I'm freaked out just after saying that story, so thanks. That makes all of us now. Thanks for sharing. And finally, number 1, not your ring. We'll finish on a scary one that's oddly nice. I don't know, here we go. This one comes from Wacky Detective. There's the wackiest detective out there. They say, when I worked at the funeral home, I was told a story about an elderly lady that had died. The husband said he wanted her to be buried with her ring as she never took it off. My coworker was in the morgue and was washing the body. She removed said ring to mark it down in the paperwork, but as soon as she did, a styrofoam head that they used for wigs went flying across the room. At that point, she just said out loud, all right, I'll put your ring back on. And then she did so. And after that, there were no more disturbances. I mean, it's kind of funny, I don't know. I mean, I personally, I would probably faint if that happened to me, but you know, I love how casual your friend was in that scenario. That's what makes it great and gives me hope. Thanks for sharing. And also, thank you for listening. What a dark list. We made it through. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters. We'll see you next time on Most Amazing Top 10.